Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gems of War faction of the Nightmare Circus, a bunch of teams for it, strategy, and all the normal things. So as far as this faction is concerned, it is a red-purple faction associated to that of the new Mydnight Kingdom, of course. As far as the layout goes, it is actually very straightforward. You want to go from the bottom and work your way up. Once you take this first room, you'll have access to like this whole little arch right over here. And you basically want to go all the way to the bottom, take all the bigger multipliers, and work your way up. So we'll go for the tier 5s first, take all the other things in the middle, and the main reason you want to take these first, well, first to build up multiplier, but then also, all 3 of these are treasure rooms. The top 3 are guaranteed treasure rooms every single time. So you start with the tier 5s, or any with higher multiplier, work all the way through the middle, as if you take everything in the circle and that bottom area, you will have your maximum amount of multipliers, and then go take your 3 treasure rooms, with all 3 of the top ones being guaranteed to be a treasure room every single time. And then of course you just end up taking out the boss. So overall, very straightforward layouts. So pretty nice for once, as some of them have very annoying ones. But this is one of the most straightforward ones we've had in a very long time. As far as the Mydnight Kingdom is concerned, these 4 new troops do bring it to 7-star if you have access to everything. I'm not sure if you can currently reach 5-star if you're playing free-to-play. The stuff that was in the Kingdom Pass obviously isn't in drop table yet. It will be in the nearest future. But as it currently stands, it is possible to reach power level 7. And if you're already able to reach power level 5, you will end up getting a permanent armor from that. As you can see right over here in bonuses, getting to there will give 1 additional armor for that 1 additional skill point. So extra armor for Owain, Guard's Avatar, and other similar teams, as well as just an extra durability to not end up dying with. Anyways, as far as the other things associated to this, of course, it came in with 4 new troops and a new weapon. Of these 4 new troops, there are 3 okay ones and 1 that is useless. The Fire Juggler will pretty much never be used in any circumstance. It just deals some damage to 4 random enemies, boosted by Terror Gems. The boost ratio is pretty much nothing, and it's a little bit too high of a mana cost relative to what it's doing. It could be kind of considered a full AoE, except, you know, it's distributing it to 4 instances of damage. So, of course, could hit the same one multiple times, could hit it randomly across multiple. It's pretty random. Compared to other things in the game, it just doesn't do enough damage and has pretty much no follow-up at all on its traits. The Fire Lion, unfortunately, is good for the faction, but I don't really see much of a use case for it outside the faction. It converts all green gems to Terror Gems, which is actually a new gem type. It is a purple gem that, when taken, inflicts terror onto a random enemy. And generally this will terror your entire team, though keep in mind you can also get terrored back if there are excess on the board. The enemy could easily take it. But it converts all green gems to Terror Gems, which is basically convert all green to purple, and then deals some damage to a random enemy. The main thing that this will be useful for is any kind of team that has Terror Boost Ratio. Will there be a viable way to do this in the future? Maybe. However, as it currently stands, this is basically only used for the pure faction team once we get around to that. The Ringmaster, very similar. Can't really be used outside of a terror boosting team. Very good synergy with Fireline, if nothing else. This Fireline will have good synergy with anything that boosts ratios from terror. But it creates a very small amount of gems. However, it's boosted by Terror Gems at a 1-to-1 ratio, which isn't the greatest of ratios, but with troops like this, it is decently easy to get a lot of Terror Gems onto the board. So on average, you're probably going to get about 10 boost ratio when you do a convert like that, which means you'll have 15 skull spam. That's not too bad, but you have to keep in mind, of course, when you do those 15 skulls, or however many he ends up doing, those skulls can replace Terror Gems. So if you try to get it and then cast it again, you're likely doing substantially less than the full amount that you were doing earlier. So for the most part, not really going to be used compared to other skull spammers, but pretty good inside in the context of the faction, because not only does it have a skull spam, but it also has a backup summon. It gets to summon any of the other 3 troops from this faction. And one of them is pretty good at tanking, and that is the Strongman. He basically got the very generic trait that can just auto-win any faction when given to it. He gains a bunch of attack and life anytime you ever have a faction troop that gains attack and any durability stat, life being the better one, but any durability stat. It just kind of just auto-wins every faction. Biggest downside with him, though, compared to some, he has no score reduction at all. Normally, troops like this get a little bit of score reduction. One thing that is a little bit nice, though, is he does have immune to terror, so he's going to basically remain in first slot, most likely, unless they have, like, cursed terror or something, which is very unlikely. Actually, it's actually impossible, because there's no curse within the 4 composition. So, yeah, he will stay in your first slot, which is nice. As long, or, you know, at least it won't be moved by terror, if anything else. It would have to be moved by some kind of other troop. But yeah, you basically just tank up with him, keep casting him, particularly relevant at the very high faction levels. you're just going to spam this guy to gain a bunch of attack and life to make sure he doesn't die and survives, so you can get a huge attack value. Then with that huge attack value, to spam Ringmaster and win from there. All 4 of these, unfortunately, I don't really see having much of a usage outside his faction. But if nothing else, Fireline probably has the most potential going forward of these 4 troops in an actual team. It would just have to be moved into a team that has really good terror boost ratio. But currently, there isn't really much that boosts on terror at the current state of the game. But, you know, that could still change. Still have a lot of time for them to add more Mydnight troops, as has barely any, has the least of any kingdom, since it just came out recently. Aside from that, we also got a new weapon. If we go over to games, of course, where the mode actually is, this will be lasting all weekend as it normally does, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Nightmare Circus event. And with this, we did end up getting a new weapon, as we always do with this. It costs, what is that, 410 gems, I believe, to buy tier 4. Highly advise doing this. You get the weapon, you get, well, that's basically it. You could easily get this from the drop table. So you basically just get the weapon, but you get enough sigils to get through all the battles as well. But it creates a mix of skulls and terror gems, which of course is basically skulls and purple then, and inflicts 3 stacks of bleed on a enemy. Does it get any good perks? I didn't actually check this earlier, but if we go to weapon, go to bone whip, does it get anything good? Let's hope so. It gets create a bone storm. That's kind of interesting. Curse the first enemy. That's not too bad either. The rest is kind of mediocre though. Yeah, it gets bone storm and curse the first enemy. Oh no, it's okay. If nothing else, they've been adding a lot more skull spam weapons lately. We used to have so few options, but they've been adding more and more over time, so that's kind of cool if nothing else. It's been something that's kind of been lacking over the years for hero weapons, but we've been getting substantially more skull spam weapons on hero lately, so that's pretty cool. It's also pretty much the only way that hero can apply terror, unless I'm forgetting another one. There's definitely not too many ways to do it, since it's mostly just associated to the Mydnight Kingdom. So we haven't had that many opportunities to get that many weapons. So it could be a way that you can inflict terror with a hero if you really want to, but there's overall probably could be better ways of doing it than this, as well as better ways to skull spam than this, but I can still see this being a good offset weapon. If nothing else, at least it's kind of good that's not meta, because weapons like this can only be gotten about once or twice a year, specifically on the Tuesday event. This weekend you'll have all Friday, Saturday, and Sunday whenever you want to go get it. However, going forward in the future, when this event rolls back around, it'll be on Tuesday events, meaning only one Tuesday, like 2-3 times out of a year at best, you'll be able to get this weapon. So it's kind of good when these aren't too meta, as they are probably the most annoying weapons to get if you do miss them. But make sure to get it this week so you don't have to worry about that. Anyways, aside from that, ready to go into teams? I guess we're ready to go into teams. So let's start from the top, all of which will be in description. There are 5 teams we're going to be going over. The lower range, the higher range, both the 2 rarities for it, the high, standard and lower, and just a pure faction team. So let's start all the way from the top. So for the very first one, we're doing Queen Titania span. Why not? We have Fairy Fire to go with it, 50% extra damage. She has really good boost ratio. We're running a Perpetual Red Storm off of the hero class of Sunspear. And running with Wand. Main reason for Wand, 2 things. We can get rid of Submerge with Curse. We can also bless ourselves up to be immune to Terror and other annoying things like Freeze. And then Leprechaun, pretty standard. Just click it and get all the mana you need. Kind of go from there. Wand will be all your mana after that. And you're good to go. For the lower rarity team, we have ourselves a Magma Dragon. While Magma Dragon is a legend, it is a legend that you can get from a faction. Actually, I didn't even mention that, but of course, for any of you that don't know, as far as where to get the new Mydnight troops, if you go to, the Nightmare Circus troops, you go to Nightmare Circus, you go to portals, you click this, and boom, you get a bunch of troops. And just keep doing that until you have everything you have. Oh, I thought we got all of one. We got everything except the legend there, but yeah, and the drop rates are right over here as far as the odds for everything. So I'm not sure why it says mythic. There is currently 0 mythics in this drop table. There's been 0 mythics ever in this drop table. So I'm actually not sure why it says mythic there. I just noticed. But because they're, oh wait, sorry, that's for the treasure troops. Never mind. I was gonna say. I looked at that wrong for a second. Yeah, I was going to say. Because there's never been a mythic at one of these drop tables. Those are the drop rates. Those are the drop rates for the treasures. But, yeah, those are the drop rates for the troops. I was going to say for a second, when do we get a mythic for a faction? That would be cool, though. I don't think they ever will, because that'd be so many mythics. A mythic for every single faction. Though, there's already so many mythics in the game. I could see them eventually doing it at some point. But anyways, that's how you get those troops. And that's how you end up getting the other guy. You get him from Fire Rift, right over here in the middle. Actually shows up right there, actually. But yeah, you get him in the same way for this lower rarity team. Just throw some Chaos Shards there. You eventually get the Legend, and you're good to go. We're just running this as our AoE. Since we aren't perpetuating red off the other one, we're just doing brown red off his final trait, which is what Lava Storm is. And he gets boost ratio for that first damage. Marilith has a pretty standard mana accumulator, also has some chip damage. Black Manigold, just pretty standard, good early mid-game weapon. And Leprechaun, because of course Leprechaun. As far as the higher rarity team, I couldn't not use Stellarix. So after the buff, if you guys haven't seen, we covered a whole video on it the other day. But Stellarix just became magically the best troop in the entire game. He was already like probably top 10, top 20 earlier. I think he's definitively the strongest troop in the game now until he gets nerfed, if he gets nerfed. If not, yeah, I think he's definitively just the strongest troop now. Of course, not for everything. There's still use cases for a lot of other troops. But gosh, is that a lot of damage. You know, this 3 times his magic is damage, so that's a lot of damage. He also has pretty good extra turn potential. Not only that, but also mana accumulates a ton, assuming he doesn't miss with any of his stars. And he also has really high durability, having a 55% spell reduction and a 30% score reduction. On top of that, he also gets some free skills to your entire team, because why not? We have Wand here for the same reason we have it on the other one. This thing does not have any immune, so you can immune it up. So it can have immune to freeze, terror, all that kind of stuff. Has quite a bit of terror, of course, obviously, from this faction that it can end up doing. So a little bit more relevant that we have terror immunity off of Bless. And the other thing is for, of course, the main thing, Submerge. Gets rid of Submerge with Curse off of the Umbral Stars when you end up cursing all the enemies. So really good for getting rid of Submerge, as well as Barrier and a few other things, but it's mostly used for Submerge. Actually comes up quite a bit in faction events due to a room perk on tier 5 that actually submerges all, submerges the enemy when they cast a spell. So anything that gets in power can be kind of annoying with that trait because they will immediately get submerged, but you just throw down a Wand of Stars on the Umbral one. You'll end up getting a bunch of yellow and purple mana, and of course, you end up getting them all cursed, which will get rid of the Submerge, assuming they're not blessed, which they shouldn't be. And of course, for the lower rarity team, not quite a lower rarity option, but I do kind of still consider her in that category. Tesla, while not as easy to get as some legends in the game, actually she's kind of hard to get as a legend. I do kind of consider a lower rarity troop because any opportunity you first have to finally get yourself a Tesla, whether it be through Soulforge, or it's an Adana event, or any other circumstance where you have any chance increased to get a Tesla, you should be going for Tesla if you don't have Tesla, because she is so good. She is one of the strongest damage troops in the entire game still. And it's all true damage. She boosts ratios based on all your armor and all the enemy armor, which is the more relevant thing. Because it boosts based on all enemy armor, she scales through the entire game. She got a boost ratio buff the other year as well, having a 3-to-1 instead of her previous 4-to-1 or whatever it was. It was 1 ratio less than this. So now she gains an extra benefit from all the armor that she ends up getting across the entire team. So very, very strong. Great option just for doing a ton of damage, scales through the entire game, and if you have a single Tesla or double Tesla, you're pretty much just good to go forever. Just mana accumulate around it, and that's all you need. Also, it is a red-purple restriction. However, you are at this current moment in time still allowed to use any colored hero weapon. So you can use their Skia Shield or any other cheap armor weapon. It doesn't have to be this. You could run whatever you want. You can run mana accumulation weapon there. But otherwise, just spam Tesla until you win. You can even go double Tesla if you want and drop something else. We're using elementals here to tank so you don't die. Leprechaun as for the obvious reason of just infinite mana, or not infinite mana, but you know, there's really good starting mana. Marilith is the infinite mana one, and then Tesla to do Tesla things with its true damage. Also, the true damage off of Marilith synergizes a little bit with the Tesla, and you're good to go. And as far as the Pure Faction team, a couple different ways you can run this depending on how you want to go about it. Like safer ways, like going kind of like Strongman, Fire Lion, Ringmaster, and then just sacrifice your first slot. Even just go double Strongman if you want to play it super safe. But this is a bit in between of safe and strong. Basically, we're going all in on Strongman, 1 single one, so spam him like crazy so he doesn't die. If he does die, well, you have 2 things that could resummon him. You have 2 Ringmasters every time you cast. A 1 in 3 chance you'll end up getting him resummoned. Worst comes to worst, even if you lose your first 2 slots, you'll still have your Ringmaster. He can keep summoning. And at some point, you will get another Strongman. So as long as you have a Strongman, a Fire Line, and a Ringmaster going to the final fight, I think you will be perfectly fine. Your first 2 slots are pretty flexible to be pretty much however you want to run it. But as long as you have a Fire Line Ringmaster or a Strongman Fire Line Ringmaster going to the final fight, you should be okay. And if you are going in like Fire Line Ringmaster, like if your whole friend of your team dies, just keep summoning with the Ringmaster until your team is ideally at least 1 Strongman. And you should be good to go. And that's pretty much the whole game plan there. You just get your mana accumulation off a Fire Line. You have your Ringmaster as your main damage source. And you need your Strongman to just keep buffing himself up, keep getting his stats up, the life so he doesn't die, attack so he can destroy everything, and once he has an adequate enough attack, you just start killing with Ringmaster. There'll be enough terror gems on the board because of Fire Line, as well as he creates 2 himself. Well, 1 per turn, but you know, you have 2 on your team. It's one of the reasons I'm actually running double him instead of double Strongman. It's a little bit more offensive, whereas this is a bit more defensive just to make sure you don't lose, but he does create 1 extra terror gem per 1 that you have on your team, so of course the more you have on your team, the more Terror Gems per turn that you're going to be creating. It's only one, but it does instantly trigger. So if it triggers next to a bunch of purples, you will get that mana instantly without even needing to swipe it, which is a lot of free purple mana. Also, this is technically a +2/+2 banner. The banner for this place, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but it's a +2 purple, +1 red, -1 green. That's what we can see right over here if we go to banners for the circus banner. But however, the fire line naturally has a +1 red, which is actually a really good use of +1 for once, because this does mean you have +2/+2 if using this banner. +2 because you have the +1 from this going into the +1 from the banner, and then the +2 for the other color, obviously just from the banner itself for 2 purple. So you have +2 purple, +2 red essentially. And this is really good because you can 2-turn Fire Lion, and the purple just goes to everything else in your team, as well as the Fire Lion. When it converts, it will create a bunch of Terror Gems, which is essentially just creating purple gems. So it ends up having some pretty good synergy. Actually, a really good banner into fire or into Link combo for once for a faction. So they actually planned ahead for once. As honestly, this faction has a pretty good synergy. The only bad troop is the only one not used here, that Fire Juggler one. There's no need for it. But otherwise, it's a pretty good overall synergistic faction for once, which is kind of cool. And curious to see how it works, because obviously we haven't actually done it yet, as we're doing this pretty much right as soon as it came out. But anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. All the teams that we just went over are in the description if you want to go and copy paste save them. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. This event will be going, as I mentioned, from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so all weekend long. So make sure to get it done. You'll get a bunch of loot, all the chaos shards, all the other orbs, everything else. And of course, you'll get a bunch of troops for the new Mydnight Kingdom, which almost doubles the amount of troop, especially if you didn't buy the Kingdom Pass. As gosh, this place has almost no troops at the moment, but of course, we'll be getting more over time and start slowly filling out that kingdom. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a like on the video. Helps a lot and is greatly appreciated. And I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.